Right, 5 June 2021. And today I want to quickly look at the latest developments in the case of the exhumation of the late president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe. So this situation has been developing over the past month. So in fact, approximately a month ago, Grace Mugabe was served with summons by Chief Zwimba, and she was told to appear at the court of the chief mid-May. So on the 20th of May, she was supposed to appear at the court of Chief Zwimba. And Grace Mugabe did not appear on the 20th of May, and she ended up having a judgment against her. And the judgment was very, very harsh. What it said is that the body of Robert Mugabe was to be exhumed and was to be buried at the National Heroes Acre. And Grace Mugabe, if she did not comply, her children's assets, which is some 5 cows and 1 goat, was supposed to be seized from her farm. And so all this happened. So the 11th of May, the summons were issued. The 20th of May, the judgment was handed down by the court of Chief Zwimba. And then today, we've just broken with the story that the children of Grace Mugabe, that is Bona Mugabe, Chatunga, and Robert Jr., they've appealed the ruling in the magistrate court at Chinhoyi. So this is very, very interesting. And I want to quickly go through this. And the conclusion that I'm going to make is that Grace Mugabe has made a wrong move. And within the next month, we are probably going to see the exhumation of Robert Mugabe's body and it being buried at the National Heroes Acre. The biggest mistake that she has made, it's a legal one. And obviously, you cannot appeal a judgment in a case that you were not a party. Even if you're not a lawyer, I'm sure you know that you cannot go to court and appeal a judgment where you did not go to court and where you were not a party in the first case. So I do not understand why the lawyer here, let's look at the lawyer, Chima Murombe, legal practice. I don't know if they are proper lawyers and if they understand how the courts work. So maybe they should have started a new court case, not to appeal a court case, even if it was at a rural homestead of a chief. How do you make yourself an appellant in a court case that you were not party of in the beginning? So this, to me, is a terrible mistake made by Grace Mugabe. And this case is probably going to be thrown out by the Chinhoyi Magistrate Court. And as I said, if they just say these 3 children were not part of the original case, so the ruling stands. And we have got approximately 25 days before Mugabe gets exhumed. If his body still is in that grave at Zwimba, and then he'll be buried at the National Heroes Acre. Now, I want to quickly go through the arguments, just for interest's sake. What are the 3 children saying? Bona is saying she's the executor, and she is making the following arguments. She's saying that Chief Zwimba erred at law by making an order that overturns a burial order in respect of the burial of the late Robert Mugabe, when the chief has no judicial authority to interpret legal acts from superior legislation to his jurisdiction. So what Bona here is saying is that a chief cannot do something in his jurisdiction which has been signed or which has been signed by a court, a higher court somewhere else, or which is governed by the law somewhere else. I don't know if this is true. I think chiefs are recognized in Zimbabwe. So we have a serious problem with the process. And then we have a serious problem with the substance. What he is saying here, I do not agree that a chief cannot do something in his jurisdiction. So let's go to the second argument. Chief Zwimba erred at law in making an order that affects property rights of a party that is not part of the proceedings. So here she's saying Chief Zwimba could not make a ruling on the 5 cows and 1 goat because those belong to the children and they do not belong to Grace. The problem here is that Grace received the summons and then she ignored. She did not tell the court why she's not coming, or the chief. She did not send a message to say, I'm not coming because of such and such a reason. She simply ignored the court and she did not appear. Now, she is ignoring the ruling, but the children are appealing, which is a big, big problem. I see this as a problem because the court would then say, what are you talking about? Who are you in this case? Where is the person that was supposed to be in this court case? This is going to be a big problem. Let's go to 3. The chief made a false ruling or a false finding of fact, which amounts an error at law when he found that the late Robert Mugabe was buried inside a house. This misdirection nullifies the ratio decidendi of his judgment. And here again, we've got a very big problem. The chief is not the complainant. So the complainant is a villager. I think the villager is called Tinos Manongovere. So the complainant went to the chief with a problem, and the chief then just responded. I do not think it is the chief who found anything, and so this also becomes a problem. Factually, is it the chief? Is Mugabe really buried inside the house or not? What is a house? Is Mugabe's house, the yard outside the house, is it part of the house? You know how these modern houses are. We had that discussion when Jinimba was buried. Was he buried inside his house or was he buried inside his house? If there is a wall around your house, are you inside the house or are you outside the house? So this is just the factual matters here that we're discussing. Number 4, Chief Zwimba erred at law in granting an incompetent order for the exhumation of Robert Mugabe, thereby usurping the lawful bounds of his judicial authority. This is the same as number 1. And this is also a problem because the chief is talking of the marking that was done for Robert Mugabe to be buried. Before Grace had that long argument with the family, it had been agreed that Mugabe was going to be buried at the National Heroes Acre. And the rituals had probably been done at the Heroes Acre. I'm not sure about that, but I think that had been done. So this is also a problem if the man in the family had made a decision and Mugabe and Grace then went against them, then she is going to lose out, especially given that she has now ignored the court, the chief's court. So it's very difficult for her. This is a very, very difficult case for Grace Mugabe. Number 5, the chief further erred at law by imposing himself with territorial jurisdiction to the affairs of an area that he does not have territorial jurisdiction over. I do not know if this is correct. So, Chief Zwimba is the highest chief in the area. He's got chiefs under him, and he can make a ruling on any area in that district, from my understanding. I was listening to Leo Mugabe speaking a few days ago. He was saying Chief Zwimba is not a paramount chief, but he's got no area under him because there's another chief in that particular area. What if the chief in that area agrees what happens then? So this is a big problem for Grace Mugabe all around, especially the fact that she sent the kids to appeal when they were not part of the initial court case. And I want to quickly go into the comments. I hope to see anything interesting here. Let's go to Bethias Mvurume. It seems effort yes iringoiswa kuvachakavu. God bless us. I think this is the case before us. We have to deal with what's in front of us. And well, Mugabe, in my opinion, should be buried with respect at the National Heroes Acre. I don't think he should be buried at a corner somewhere. He's part of the history of Zimbabwe. It's like Mbuyane a skull. You can't just say, oh, it's London, leave it over there. These are some of the important things that need to be done. Similarly, Mugabe should be buried at the National Heroes Acre. I've got no question about that. And although I don't think it's a legal matter, I think it's a matter of negotiation. Grace should come to the table and allow this to happen. People like Leo Mugabe, they should come to the table and make this happen. Mugabe cannot be just anybody buried in a grave somewhere because he's a national figure. He should be in the National Heroes Acre, especially given the fact that the grave is already there. Probably the mausoleum is already there. So why not? Why don't they move him over there? I think this is a good move. Everyone would welcome it. Let's go to Chris. Legal advisor wako akunyepera gambakwe. I don't agree with you that you can appeal a case in which you were not a party. Ask any lawyer in Zimbabwe. Ask Maduku, the best constitutional lawyer in Zimbabwe. Can you appeal a case in which you were not in the case in the first place? I don't know where they get the lawyers who advised the children, Bona and Chatunga and Robert Jr. It's clear you cannot be appealing a case in which you were not there in the beginning. Then let's go to Kuziva Kwashe Chikukwa. Danga belongs to the executor. Let them do it. That is the judgment that can be executed. Bona is right as an executor to defend the rights of the estate, which includes the late Mugabe's bonds. I think, Kudakwashe, you're not understanding the point that I'm making. She is the executor. She's got rights. But she cannot appeal a case where she was not in the beginning. She can start a new one, but she cannot appeal one where she was not. I think all the lawyers will agree with me there. Then let's go to Emmanuel. Ndian akakudza kuti haendeswi ku court. Okay, I don't understand, Emmanuel, what you are saying. And then let's go to Brighton. Nemakai wari kuda chitu na yet wapenyu tiripo wari kuda kurarama. Zimbabwe must be free. Well, this is the case before us. And this is the family taking each other to court. The Zimbas and the Mugabes, they're all part of the same family. There is no one in this case who is not part of the family. So they're taking each other to court. You should let them do it. We should just analyze what is happening. Absalom Nkomo. Gambako, why are you talking that way? Are you ZANU-PF? There's nothing to do with ZANU-PF here, my friend. Absalom Nkomo. The case is between Chief Zimba, who is the family of Mugabe, and the kids, Bona, Chatunga, and Robert Jr. It's got nothing to do with ZANU-PF. And then let me end with Ronnie Tambanjo. Of course, he is. Shouldn't be a problem, but he shouldn't preach. I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, I have covered the point which I wanted to make. Grace Mugabe is making the same mistake she made during the burial of Mugabe. She's letting the emotions run the situation. She is withdrawing herself from the situation, hoping that it will go away. This one is not going to go away. I can assure you, today is the 5th. If this case continues this way, Mugabe is going to be exhumed by the end of July, we'll be already talking about Mugabe's grave at the National Heroes Acre, because they're making legal mistakes, they're making strategic mistakes, and they're making negotiation mistakes. Leo Mugabe is the adult in the family. He should come to the table. Grace Mugabe, she should come to the table, talk to the people that she needs to talk to, so that this thing can be resolved amicably. As I said, there's no way Mugabe, Robert Mugabe, can be buried at a home. That is a travesty. I'm telling you, ask anybody, why would you bury someone like Mugabe at a village? Who is keeping his grave now? What about his clothes? So they've just abandoned everything. And this is not right. I think what they need to do is to sit down and negotiate, especially the issues to do with the clothes or Mugabe's property. You can't just move it around if you're not family, obviously. So it brings a difficulty. But they've appointed a chief to lead the proceedings. So there's already a family member who's going to be there. If you look at the judgment, there is a chief there. I think this Chief Chidziva, if I'm not mistaken, they've appointed Chief Chidziva to lead the proceedings from the side of the family. So it's going to be very, very difficult for Grace to stop the process. The 1st of July is coming, and it's going to be extremely difficult for the family of Grace Mugabe, especially if things happen without the agreement. They're all going to be away, and the children are now being involved in this case, which I think is very, very sad and also legally wrong. The approach here taken is totally wrong. You cannot appeal a case in which you were not there. I think if there was a lawyer here who was commented, they would clearly say you cannot do that. And then okay, you are saying Mugabe never said he wanted to be buried at Heroes Acre. It's not a choice. You are a national figure. If you are a national figure anyway, you cannot choose where you're going to be buried. If I'm not mistaken, one of the Nkomo family didn't want to be buried at the National Heroes Acre, and they were forcibly buried there by Mugabe, if I'm not mistaken. And this is what happens. You played a part in the country. You built a national shrine. In the case of Mugabe, it's very sad. He buried hundreds of people at that shrine. He cannot say now, this shrine means nothing. He has to lie with other comrades. And that is where the difficulty is. And it's going to happen very, very soon. Let's look at the last comment. Gamba Kwewe was the chief when Mugabe was buried at his home, because the chief was supposed to deny before the story is giving country a bad image. I disagree with you. Grace Mugabe was adamant, and she basically guarded the body of Robert Mugabe. If I'm not mistaken, she even refused to talk to very senior government people about this issue or about any other issue during that time. We covered this issue before many, many people. The fact that there was already controversy before Mugabe's body came. And this is said because it's not a simple matter. You can't have a body of a person like Mugabe buried there. I do not agree with that. I do not think that is the way that should happen. Let's look at Alpha. You're saying you don't like my smile. I'm so sorry, my man. I'm a happy person. I'm just gonna smile, and it's gonna annoy you, but it's all good. Right. Let's go to my conclusions now. Let me conclude. Let me see what we can say about this case. Zimbabwe, basically, at the moment, people too politicized. People can't think straight. Everything is about politics. Everything is about a grudge. We can't move on because of such matters. And I think this needs to be sorted out. We need to move to the next level in our country in development. The fights are necessary and it's taking too much time. I think Mugabe should be buried there in the National Heroes Acre. And I hope that the kids lose because they've followed the wrong route. And I hope that people like Leo, and I keep going back to Leo Mugabe because he's the most senior person. He can make a big difference here. If Leo was to convince Grace, people like Joao, they need to come back to the table and sit and let their senior Mugabe, the late Mugabe, get the honor that he deserves. At the moment, what they're doing is just making the situation worse. They're showing that as a family, they're prone to fighting, to a lot of chaos, and it's affecting everyone. I think this needs to be sorted out, and it needs to be sorted out as soon as possible, especially for this to be done properly. If Mugabe's claws are not moved properly, this will go on forever and ever, and it will keep coming back to the public spotlight. Mugabe must be honored in Zimbabwe, even though all the other issues that happened during his removal. This is probably the time to let things lie, because the fact that they've sent the kids in front means that they've got no case. They've looked at all the other issues, all the other possibilities, and realized that they've got no case. Now they're trying to use the kids. But obviously, this is not going to work. And I can assure you, even if I was a lawyer in first year, I would understand the fact that you cannot appeal a case in which we're not there in the beginning. Right. I think I've said enough, and it's a weekend. So I'll let everyone go home and sleep and watch Netflix and do other interesting things. And we'll talk again probably on Monday when I talk to Mr. Jonasi, if he's back from the Herbert Chitepo School of Ideology. I don't know when he's going there, since he's a new ZANU-PF member, and how long it takes. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll talk to you again on Monday. Ay, 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 ay.